Alright, let me break this down for you. So, the place I play at every week, it's Piano Bar. We do 7 days a week of entertainment. And some days it's like noon to 1 a.m. or, 4 to 12. I mean, it's a lot of hours. There's a lot of hours being put on a digital piano. We could pretty much buy a brand new digital piano, and the second it makes its way into the bar, it's like warranty's gone. I mean, I'm pretty sure if any company knew how much we use our digital pianos, they would not want to honor any warranty on it. So I'm the fix-it guy for our place, and basically I never thought I would find myself getting into electronic keyboard repair. It's one of those things that I always felt like, okay, I can repair acoustic instruments, but when I thought about opening up a digital piano or keyboard and messing with electronics, I was always put off by it. I said, there's no way. There's probably tedious stuff. I'm going to have to resolder components. I didn't realize that these days they're pretty much made where it's like parts that are going to wear out are the ones that they make easy to replace, which I feel like that's cool. We're not going to be able to like resolder little chips into these micro circuit boards, or like robots are probably doing all that in the factory. So basically, I'm going to show you how to get into this piano. It's a P-515. It's a little bit of a pain to take apart the first time that you do it because it just seems like a lot of stuff the way that it comes apart. It's not like a P-115 where you just pull all the screws out of the bottom and basically separate the halves. This one has, the side covers, the front valence piece that covers the bottom of all the keys, and then it's got the main control panel that comes off in 2 pieces. And then under the side covers, there's these metal brackets. They're more for a structural kind of hold. So you don't have to completely take all that off, but this one is a little bit of a pain. It took me a bit to figure out. So we're going to open it up, and I'm going to replace all the rubber contacts that are wearing out after about 6 months of use. Yes, this thing is practically brand new in normal musicians' time frame, but in the place that I play, in our time frame, I would say 6 months of steady use that's a lot. That's a lot. It's been through tons of songs, tons of hours, lots of laughs, and lots of people having a good time. I would say it's not a super difficult fix, but just like anything electronic with pieces like this, you just have to kind of be accurate and be a little bit careful. You don't want to force anything because stuff could break. To start off with this one, we're going to kind of flip it up, and you want to remove the screws on the sides underneath. Now, there's 6 of them in a row, kind of, and I don't believe you have to remove all of those, but I went ahead and did it because I think when you get in there, it's kind of nice being able to move those metal structural pieces. You kind of get to pivot them out of the way a little bit, and if you didn't remove all 6 screws, I think you would end up needing to do that. So I go ahead and take all 6 of them out, and then those covers are going to slide towards you if you were sitting behind the piano like to play it. Okay, so not bad there. That step's pretty simple. The next thing that you want to do is remove that little front cover that basically goes at the bottom of the keys, like basically closest to you. There's a series of screws underneath. I want to say there's 9 of them. And then you're going to have to take off one fine threaded machine screw kind of on the top of it, basically on each side. And be careful with the little circuit board that's on the left side. That's what runs the headphones jacks, and there's a very short wire, so before you try to pull that thing off, you're going to want to unplug that wire. And again, just be really careful with it. Next, we're going to move on to that rear control panel, and this thing actually comes off in 2 pieces, so it's kind of cool. You're going to look underneath, and you'll have a line of screws that go across the bottom into the wood, and then you're going to have a line of screws that separate the 2 plastic pieces. You'll see what I'm talking about. So get all those screws out, see if you can get the lower plastic piece off first. Then you're going to be able to look inside and see 2 little metal framing pieces that go to that big cover. And those are held in by fine thread screws underneath the wood as well. So to get the rest of that big control panel off, all you really have to do is remove those 2 fine threaded screws there underneath, and then on each side you're going to have 2 black screws that'll come out, and that'll pretty much get you there. Next it's on to the wires. So when it comes to this part, when you're dealing with the wire bundles and plugs, this is where you really need to be careful, because you don't want to break one of those little clips, or worse yet, pull some wires out of a plug or something like that. Remember, anytime it comes down to these wiring harnesses, I always feel like if you're really having to force it, something is wrong. Even if it's a little stuck in there, you should be able to wiggle it a bit and then get it to move a little bit looser. But if you have the button pushed properly, you should be able to get these things off fairly simply without having to force them. So right here I'm just pointing out some of those wiring harnesses that need to be removed, and of course you can tell if you're trying to take the cover off, you're looking down, you can see the wires that are connected, and all you really have to do is just trace them to the location where they plug in, and then maybe make some kind of note of it, but they really only go in one spot, so they're pretty easy to just get back into place. Now I ended up having to take this piano apart a little bit further than I originally thought. At first I thought I could get to the top of the keys and then pop them out, and then I should be able to see like a rubber contact or a sensor. Now there is one under the top side, but that's not the one that you're actually looking for. The one that you're looking for you're going to find after you take out the whole keyboard section. So it actually requires removing the 2 speakers first. Now I believe you can pretty much leave those hooked up. It's just that you need to pull them out far enough to get to the screws with the lock washers and the regular washers. And you'll see what I'm talking about. They go across the whole keyboard section, and you need to be able to remove all those screws, plus 2 little smaller screws that are down in the crevices, but you'll see them. And when you flip that thing over, that's how we access the circuit boards that come out, and then the rubber contacts can be replaced under those.
Okay, so what happened with this thing is it's got little rubber contacts underneath these circuit boards. Now, I ended up replacing 2 of them, but there's little buttons in here, and you can see that one is out of place because it tore. So after a lot of use, those get wore out and they kind of start tearing. There's a couple more, and I went ahead and replaced 2 strips because there's 2 under this middle circuit board. So I decided, okay, I'm going to order those, go ahead and replace them. That way the middle of the piano has kind of been restored at least. And getting that back in is a little tricky because the circuit board hooks under all these little tabs. And what you basically got to do is lift this thing up, make sure that the weight's off the keys, and when you set these little rubber inserts in, they'll set in there nice when you have all the weight off the keys. If you have the keys up, it's trying to push them back out. So basically, have it standing up. That's the way I did it. You get those little button inserts back in there and hook the circuit board under these tabs, and you put the screws back in, and that's basically the easiest way I found to do it. And now it's time to figure out how to put it back together.
So the first time I took this piano apart, it was because we had lost one of the D keys, and I believe it was the middle of the piano. And I replaced the 2 strips in the center because I figured, well, we use the middle of the piano the most, and they're 12 key strips. So I figured, let's do the middle, and then it was only a couple weeks later we had a really low D that went out, and I'm like, okay, at this point I guess this is going to start happening. So I went ahead and ordered enough to replace all those button strips. There's one on the top, I believe, that was a 5 button strip. Now, there might have been the 11 at the top, and then I think on the bass section there's the 5 button or something. Anyway, I'm going to try and include all the part numbers in here, and I just went through that Yamaha 24/7 website to order parts, which was great. It was pretty easy, just paid with credit card, and usually you get your parts within a week. So it wasn't too bad, but this is actually the second time I'm pulling this thing apart, and we're going to hopefully get it all fixed up and maybe not have to do it for a while this time. Now, while we're in here, even though I don't need to actually remove the keys, I'm going to go ahead and put in a little clip that shows you how to do that. That way, if you have a different issue you can pop the keys out. And really all it is, you just look for the little arrow on the key. And even though I examined it, I'm not exactly sure how it works. But I took like a butter knife, and whatever side the arrow is pointing to, you can pretty much put the butter knife in there. And it wasn't really even like it took a lot of pushing or anything. It's just putting the butter knife in that little slot allowed me to pop the key out pretty easily. It was kind of a lift and pull back, but just be really careful with it. It's kind of strange, but they're not too difficult. And if you have to take keys out, maybe you have to deal with that rubber contact that's on the other side, that's under the key, and maybe you got to get in there. Hopefully this will help you out for that. So what I'm doing now is replacing the little button strips and well, the rubber contacts, what they call it. So like the two on the ends are different. Like the one that goes down the very bottom of the bass end is a 5 button or 5 key, and then the one that goes up here on the top is an 11, whereas most of them are 12. It uses 6 of the 12s. So here's the 11. So basically it comes out once the circuit boards are dropped, and I have to put it up this way because if I have weight on the keys with this thing laying down, it's going to make it a lot more difficult to get these circuit boards back in. So here's the old one. I'll throw the new one in real quick, and that's basically what happens with those. So now with this one, you'll be able to look at it and see all the nasty dust and junk in there. But what happens is when these get worn out, the little buttons on the bottom get to where they'll pop in and they'll get turned sideways, or just kind of they get kind of ripped. So when one of those little buttons turns sideways or gets stuck in there, it doesn't activate the key properly anymore. And that's actually what had happened down on one of the D keys. You can see it's better in the light, but you can kind of see on that very first one, that was the D, and it just got kind of flipped in there. I'd like to see if I could focus the camera without causing it to fall over, but I don't know if it's gonna work. Anyway, that's what happens. These little buttons get bad. See, all the ones where you see the black are normal, but right there it got flipped inside, and that means it's starting to tear around the circle. So that's how it works. I'll go ahead and keep on replacing these little contact strips. And that's basically how you'd restore the rubber contacts of a P-515. So there's that one. These two in the center have already been done, so I'm not going to pull those. And I'm pretty sure that these have had some abuse as well. This piano isn't very old, but our venue, we play 7 nights a week, or 7 days a week. It's constant entertainment every day, so our pianos get put through a lot of use. Go ahead and... So I'm going to have 2 of these contact strips that I get to save for future as kind of like a backup to get us through. But for the most part, I ordered all new since I had recently replaced the 2 in the center. I went ahead and ordered 6 new ones so that we'll have 2 left in the packages, and those will be the ones that I grab if well, it's not so much if, it's when the issue starts happening again, because who knows, another 6 months or so, probably gonna be maintaining the piano again. It's just kind of what happens. I mean, when you play, and I guess that the amount of hours that we put on these keyboards is just what does it. It's the hours, and probably some players play harder than others, so you know, that's gonna wear them out quicker too. But that's basically how it works. So now I should need 2 more of the 12 button, and then that little 5 button that goes down on the very end, and that'll pretty much finish it up. And the parts from Yamaha aren't terrible.
I want to say I spent probably 80 bucks on all these rubber contact strips. And that was 3 different part numbers. So like I said, you're going to order 6 of the ones that run through most of the piano. And then you're going to order the one on the end of the bass side, the 5 button, and then the 11 button up there. So it's 3 different parts. And if anything, I'll see if I can put those part numbers in the... Matter of fact, let's see, the main one, the 12 button, is right here. If I can get in the camera. Yeah, it may not focus. VCZ 74300. Alright, the little 5 button, or 5 key, is VCZ 74400. And then what was the 11? I've got the 11 button pack. I mean, yeah. The one that goes up on the very high end is the 11 button, and that is V8286701. Sorry, it's a little blurry. Cool. Alright, I'm going to keep going and get this thing finished up and put back together, so hopefully when I go to work on Sunday, I'll be swapping out this piano and taking our backup home, because now the backup is having... we've had the backup going now for about... It's a Roland, and we've had that one back on there for about 2 weeks now, I think. No, maybe it's been about 2 weeks. And one of the guys already broke the A key, and I was able to actually super glue the key back on to get through 2 shows. Well, it was 2 days for me, and I think they were able to get through another 3 or 4 days. But it's the second A key, so it's a very, very... I mean, of course, all the keys that go out first are the ones that we use the most. So that was unfortunate, but I'm going to probably bring our backup pianos home. I think we have 2 or 3 of the Rolands, and probably bring those home and do some good restoration work on those as well, so that here going forward, even our backup pianos are going to have some good life on them, so that when I'm fixing this one, we won't have to worry as much about the keys breaking or something else happening. Alright, there we go.
Now, I don't know for sure. There might be a possibility in this video that I had the piano turned a certain way where I got backwards. I can't remember if it was the 5 key strip that goes on the bass and the 11 that goes on the high, or vice versa. But just make sure that whenever you take it apart, you figure out which button strip is bad, and just order the right one. You'll know whenever you take it apart, and you'll see the key that is in, you know, suspicion. You'll be able to look at it right away and see if it's torn or if there's a different problem. So once all those contact strips were replaced, I'm going to get those circuit boards put back on and start putting this thing back together so we can test it out and see if it's right.
Now, getting these circuit boards back in, it's very delicate. I mean, maybe they're not as delicate as I feel like they are, but you got to make sure that the rubber contacts are sitting in there real nice where they go. And like I said, this is the best way that I've found so far to do this, is having it propped up this way, because the weight is off the keys. I would say get it up this way, and then you want to make sure that pretty much all these weights are... I kind of go through most of the piano and make sure that all these weights are pretty much at rest. So, and I mean, if all of them aren't, it's not a big deal. It's just that when you have a laying down and all the weight on it, it's impossible to get those circuit boards back in. So the way that they work is there's a bunch of little hooks up under here, and there's also alignment pins that this thing is going to go on. So these little pins are small. You got to be real careful not to break this stuff. When I get ready, the way I do it is I just make sure I can visually see the screw holes through here. And that's how I know that I've got my side-to-side alignment correct. But basically, I want to see the screw hole as I'm hooking it underneath these little hold down deals. And then you should feel it. There's a guide pin right here in the center, and you see the little arrow. It kind of tells you if you're right there, that's gonna tell you that you're aligned side to side properly. So screw holes are a good visual, but then you've got those little pins. Now, it might be helpful for you to put the screw that has the big flat kind of pan on it, kind of built-on washer almost. Those are the ones that hold down 2 circuit boards. So you're basically right at the joint of the middle board and the end board. So you've got these screws that are specifically for that part where you've got 2 circuit boards hitting each other. So we'll go ahead and put that one in, maybe get another one over here, and then I'll go ahead and get the other ones, the other circuit boards as well, just so they're at least holding in place. Yeah, and then you can see I should have one more of these little panhead screws. Yeah, I do. It's over here, and it's the one that goes on the base side. So again, double check that all these are aligned properly. And here it goes. Alright, so for the most part now I should be able to go back and put all these screws in and get these circuit boards secured, and we can put this thing back together. So before you can start putting the screws in, the main thing electronically with putting this keyboard back on is the wire harness that runs under it. And you can see that all you really got to do is plug that wire in under, then flip it down into position, and just make sure that you slide these wires back in this little holding clip. That way it keeps them from moving around and stuff. So when you're getting this whole keyboard section put back on to the base of it, what I do is I look at the metal foil, because you can kind of see an indentation where this plastic has set before. There is a little bit of side to side movement that could happen here, like play. You've also got these little screws. There's only 2 that don't have the washer and the lock washer like this. So there's 2 of them, and I'm thinking that what they did initially is they used those 2 as kind of a place to lock it in the correct position. I don't know for sure, but I think what it really comes down to is look at the indentions in the foil, and you'll see exactly where these need to go. And that's how you'll know that you've got your left to right kind of in place. So we'll keep on going. After this is secured down, this whole keyboard section, we can put the speakers back on, and there's like 6 screws that hold those from the back. So also there's almost like little dowels that set into these holes right here. So those dowels will basically line up the speaker where it goes, and then you can put the screws in from the back. Okay, so as we're going back together, we got the speaker secured, the keyboard is secured down. Next, you're gonna put on this big main control panel. And really, to take it off, there was only 2 of the big harnesses over here. You needed the one that had the yellow, black, and white wire and gray. And then the next one, the one that was sitting next to it with the black, red, orange, and another gray, it looks like. So those 2 I just clicked back on. Then the other one that had to come off was this little thing right here. And all you do is, when you click it back in, make sure you secure it back with this little curly thing, whatever they call those. And it's gonna be the same over here. You've got another one of these little securing deals, and you wanna get this little small one which goes, oh yeah, it goes down in here, I believe. So they've kind of got it where, let me see if I can video and do this. So yeah, it just kind of curls down in here. Now these things are delicate. I mean, they're small, they seem delicate, but it pops right in. Usually they'll unhook pretty easily. When you unhook it, you know, you just get a fingernail up underneath there, and they seem to, it's like a little release, but they seem to unhook pretty easily. Let's see, I'm trying to figure out how I had this wrapped in here. I think that's it. And that's all you do, is kind of push that just enough to where it's holding it. I know that if I'm going to be in here undoing these things again one day, as much as we maintain these pianos, then I'm not going to like put it super tight, because I'm just going to have to undo it. So we got 4 connectors. It looks like nothing's loose. So when you put this cover on, there's 2 screws that go in from the bottom. It's for these little brackets here. And, you know, they're kind of right in line with the, well, you can see how far from the edge they are. So it should be these 2 screws. They're silver screws, and they're a fine thread. It's like a fine threaded pan head. So we'll get those put in next. There's also 2 more. There's the black ones that go from here to there. But that's pretty self-explanatory. You'll see that when you're taking it apart too. One thing to note about some of the screws is always look at the color and the heads, the head style. Like, I know that the heads for these, I had realized, you know, there were 2 screws that needed to go in here. And I had mixed them with the screws that hold on the side covers. But the side cover screws use more of a pan head, or a kind of a radius there. And then you can tell that these are a little bit maybe thicker on the very edge, but they're smaller head. So even though the threads are the same, just make sure that you're using the right screw. So these 2 are the ones that are going to go in those 2 holes that are left over, and then all these are going to be used for side covers. Now, before I get the small cover on that goes back here, and then the front cover and the side covers, I like to test it and make sure all my electrical connections are good, make sure that the keys I was repairing are working right, because there's a lot of screws. So if you did all that and had to take it apart again, that would be a little bit unfortunate. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and just test it. There's the circuit board at the front for the headphones jack, and I've found that I can still test it with that disconnected. I don't know if it affects like much else. I mean, it might, but at least I'm able to go in and make sure that the keys are functioning properly before I put all that on. All right, so here's the basic test before I put the rest of the covers back on. The D that was going bad, it was playing at full volume with no dynamic, so looks like we're good now. I run all the way through them, because I did replace all the rubber contacts, so make sure it's all good. All right, everything works. So get this thing finished up. All right, so I just got the little front face put back on. Now remember, whenever you take it off, it's coming off with this circuit board, which you have to unplug right here. And you've got the 2 screws on both sides there. You got, well, 1 on each side. And then you've got all the screws that go underneath. I want to say there's 9 of them. So once you got that piece back on, you're pretty much done. The next one is your side covers. And remember, it's just like a bit of a sliding action. I'm probably gonna have to put the phone down. It looks like it starts, yeah, it looks like it starts a little forward and then it's gonna slide back into place. So let me get these on. Alright, it was a success. Everything went back together. And it works now. So I've gone through it a couple times to make sure everything was working. All the keys are working now. The part you're looking for is, I actually ordered 2 of these. And these are the old ones. Even though not all of them are bad, you could see there was, let's see, the main one was here. That's that D. You can see the little button is kind of turned and flipped in because it's torn. So I inspected some of these others, and you look, they're torn. So it's when they get bad enough that they flip in and then they quit contacting. Well, that pretty much does it for this one. Now I really hope that you guys got something from this video. I know that when I was looking for a video on this P-515 Yamaha, I couldn't find anything that seemed like it was going to help me do this. So I had to figure it out, and if you guys like stuff like this, please do me a favor, do the subscribe thing, like the video because it definitely helps the algorithm, and keep on checking back if you like DIY stuff. I have a whole bunch of cool things coming out, so always appreciate you, and hope to see you back. Leave me comments if you got them. Thanks again.